Hello, so I'm JK Veers, and I just wanted to share something's heavy on my heart, and I hope I could get it out right. So, 2 years ago, yesterday was 2 years since we lost a loved one to suicide. There's a train going by, but you never know why somebody dies by suicide. Sometimes people leave notes, sometimes they don't. But it's awful. And it's why I make a fool of myself like online and write and do almost everything I do, because maybe one person will listen and think twice, and the whole domino effect of suicide will be prevented, because it's hard for everybody. It's hard seeing everybody else affected, so it's a whole domino effect. I don't know if the right term is a black hole death. I don't know if that's triggering or not, but it's like you see somebody who's like this bright shining light of hope sometimes, and this great person, they may not see themselves that way, but everybody else often does. And when they're gone, it's just kind of like this shining star is gone, and it kind of sucks so much life out of everybody left. Like it's hard. I think suicides and people that die of overdoses, it's like this black hole. Like, it's so hard to grieve. It's deaths of despair. When you lose somebody, I feel like everybody should be talking about it. I mean, imagine the person you love the most gone. Just imagine it. If you imagine it, you're going to get up and start sharing hope and sharing your story and say, I don't want anyone to have that happen. It's awful. It's not something we are prepared for. It's not something we talk about. So I share my story. I write books, and I went back to becoming a therapist because we need to talk about it, and we need to help. And it's a battle that, some people see it as spiritual against darkness, but I mean, it's a battle against darkness, whether you have a religious belief or not. There's society's kind of giving up hope and pushing people down and comparing people. So I talk about some difficult things like bullying, like suicidal ideation. People have been abused. I try to bring light to it, because if you can't talk about it, you can't heal from it. Dr. I think Dan Siegel said, if you can name it, you can tame it. And society's been, if you don't talk about it, it didn't happen. And that kind of was like God only knows how long that mentality went on until, I would say even the last 20 years, people are talking about it. Talking about things like loss, like when a baby dies, people now talk about it. It used to be like, well, we miscarried, but now people are giving those kids names, or the sudden infant death, SIDS. Like, people are dealing with it. They're grieving. They're talking about things that are hard. When somebody does die, it's like we have to talk about it. You have to say, when I write, so this is a book. Let me share first a kid book, is Beware of the Pit of Despair. So my kid books, I don't use crap, or I try to make very simple kind of analogies in them. So a lot of the pages have to do with like even lies we tell ourselves, and so they're child appropriate. But for teenagers, the first book I wrote for teens and young adults and people that are just fed up, that are tired of the self-help sugar-coated books. It's like the Crap Happens philosophy series. So I changed it to The Ultimate Guide to Hope and Healing in a Crap-Filled World. And it's over 500 pages and over 500 quoted. But I kind of wanted to touch on bullying. And I want to see if I can find... So it's not really scripted, I say, because now I'm thinking of finding something else. So... bullying does happen, and it's hard, but I don't feel like talking about that right now. I'm going to talk about the stages of loss. The other video, my camera's not the best, it's just my laptop, but the stages of loss, we have anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance, denial, and those are from Kubler-Ross. So anger is sadness that has nowhere to go. In the end, some of your greatest pains become your greatest strengths. Drew Barrymore. Grief, I've learned, is really love. It's all the love you want to give but cannot give. The more you love someone, the more you grieve. All of that unspent love gathers up in the corners of your eyes and in that part of your chest that gets empty and hollow feeling. The happiness of love turns to sadness when unspent. Jamie Anderson said that. So it's so sad. And I believe that it talks about transformation as after acceptance, that post-traumatic growth. In this book, to keep with the theme and hopefully keep appealing to young people, I talk about turning crap to fertilizer to grow something beautiful. So we have loss, but what do we do with that? Or we have sadness. So the TAPS is Tragedy Assistance Programs for Survivors, and I believe this is under the VA. A final word. It takes time. So this is written by Jill Harrington Lamore, Recognizing Grieving Secondary Losses, TAPS.org. I found this quote. A final word. It takes time and patience to heal. It is my hope that this list will help all grievers, friends, and caregivers to understand why nothing can replace the grieving process. The grief process helps us survive all kinds of losses and challenges so that we can make the necessary adjustments to new circumstances. Awareness of the secondary losses that accompany a death can help the grieving person and those around him or her to be more patient as they learn to navigate their way through a new world, charting a new course as they embark on their pioneer journey to their future life. I included Langston Hughes' quote of "Hold fast your dreams, for if dreams die, life is a broken winged bird that cannot fly." Because I feel like when I lost my sister, when she only lived a couple minutes, I was told, but I was about 13, and it was like the loss of everything you imagined is heavy. And I think when we have losses that are traumatic and tragic and not the natural old age or having time with a terminal illness to process it, which is still tragic and sad, but these sudden losses my generation is experiencing, from suicide, overdose, drunk driving, gun violence, random health issues that are popping up. It's really hard because it's not just what has been, it's the grieving of what could have been. And we can talk about that. You know, we can name it. It's okay to grieve. It's okay to, talk about it. The grief from suicide is often traumatic, and this is from Alliance of Hope for Suicide Loss Survivors, which is allianceofhope.org, and it was under the Survivor Experience Aspects of Grief Secondary Wounds. So let me read this to you. So the grief from suicide is often traumatic and complicated for that reason alone. It may take longer to process than other grief. Survivors suffer terrible and have a right to mourn in their own time and in their own way. The torturous pain will not last forever. Life will never be the same, but healing does and will occur. In the course of grieving the suicide of a loved one, most survivors eventually come to terms with a profound sense of their own limitations, realizing that none of us are able to control the action of another. Though we try our best, no one is perfect, a perfect parent, spouse, sibling, or friend. None of us are all-seeing, and none of us are able to fix another's pain. Hopefully, we learn to treat ourselves with as much compassion and forgiveness as we would our families and friends. That's another Alliance of Hope for Suicide Loss Survivors. And that TAPS, the Tragedy Assistance Program, has 3 phases. So we have of the postvention model. Postvention is a critical component of any comprehensive suicide prevention strategy. So when you have lost somebody, the grief, it's stabilization. Help stabilize you and your family members in the immediate aftermath of a loss. 2, phase 2, grief work. Guide you onto a healthy journey of grieving. Phase 3, post-traumatic growth. Move you toward post-traumatic growth in a fully intentional way. And this is why the Out of the Darkness walks by the AFSP are so important, because it's something you can do. There is a table at the one in my county of just a mom sharing about her daughter. And there's a lot of people that are there that are just there to, shed light and do something, because we've had these losses. I have had a table the last 2 years for suicide for Share Hope Through Art, which is a suicide prevention program I started after a loss. So trying to find something to do versus keeping it bottled up, and being able to share your story can be helpful when the time is right. It's not necessary for everybody, but if it's on your heart, something to consider. So Elizabeth Kubler-Ross has a quote: "The most beautiful people we have known are those who have known defeat, known suffering, known struggle, known loss, and have found their way out of the depths. These persons have an appreciation, a sensitivity, and an understanding of life that fills them with compassion, gentleness, and a deep, loving concern. Beautiful people do not just happen." So algae is, if you haven't taken mental health first aid, please do so. mentalhealthfirstaid.org. That's an acronym they have in their program, but I'd rather them go over it with you. I have it in the book, but some trainings are meant to be not a page in a sentence. So take it if you haven't. I'm going to read 2 more pages, just these 2. Stay another day, every day. Gerard Arthur Way said, "Suicide is a serious thing, as you know. So anyone who is suicidal, you need to get them help. No one should be in pain. Everyone should love themselves like I love you all." Juliette Lewis said, "The bravest thing I ever did was continuing my life when I wanted to die." Emile Durkheim said, "Our excessive tolerance with regard to suicide is due to the fact that since the state of mind from which it springs is a general one, we cannot condemn it without condemning ourselves. We are too saturated with it, not partly to excuse it. It is a society which, fashioning us in its image, fills us with religious, political, and moral beliefs that control our actions." So then I have this, and this is what I want to end on. Kind of like how I shared earlier that we should all be on this journey to help shed light and talk about things and counter this age of darkness and denial. I wish you could see it. You really can't see it. Every preacher or leader should publicly share the desire for the end of deaths and despair. No suicides, overdoses, drunk driving. Brainstorm, work towards making it happen. Every church should be praying for those in despair to have hope. Ears should be open to learn how to help. Not silent about mental and or behavioral health struggles. Not taking the easy path of blaming the victims instead of changing the world. Leaders should seek education to learn best ways to help others. There's mental health first aid. There's a lot of suicide prevention training specifically. And it's, I may end up reading more, sorry. I have a little bit of time before I have to do a training and then go to work. But, yeah. So I did want to share 10 things we know to be true for suicide loss survivors by TAPS. Again, for survivors in need of immediate suicide postvention support, taps.org/suicide and 800-959-8277. So there's 10 things. You are not alone. You will not always feel this much pain. 3, most people who die by suicide do not want to die. They want their pain to end. 4, suicide is the perfect storm event. Multiple complex factors. Again, this is a quote, if you don't see it. I didn't make these up. Professionals that researched it and I'm sure vetted it, created this. 5, you can't prevent what you can't predict. 6, eventually the questions will cease to be so all-encompassing. Why? What if? 7, what you tell yourself matters. 8, suicide is not a reflection of love. 9, how you cope with this is up to you. 10, love never ends. I have a whole bunch of quotes on death, grieving, and healing. Every life, no matter how brief, changes the world. Your loved one is forever in your heart, forever changed your heart. These are all unknown. Some people who come into our lives leave footprints on our hearts, and we are never the same. May you be comforted and have even more compassion, understanding, and love. Many of our hearts have been broken by loss of a loved one, and our love knows no end. May you find love and purpose for the rest of your days. Goodbyes are not forever. Goodbyes are not the end. They simply mean I'll miss you until we meet again. A legacy of love to pass on, a love to continue. So on that, I'm going to end. I hope this reaches somebody that needs to hear it, bye. Get help if you need it, please. Your life matters. Trust me. The ripple effect gets all the way. I want to see 0 suicides, 0 overdoses. So, till that happens, I think a lot of us, are doing our best to make it happen.